getting ready to do some planting, and if you've never used the GardenMax before, this is a really unique product. The GardenMax is made specifically for clay soils, and it helps condition clay soils, but it's great for all kinds of different soils. It has a lot of composted organic matter in there. They put mycorrhiza, beneficial microbes. They put in a pH balancer. They put in a lot of different materials to help condition the soil so that that clay will break up and allow water and nutrient to penetrate down into the soil, and it won't crust up and be so hard. So we've been using the GardenMax for the last couple of years, and it's an excellent soil amendment that you can use right before you're planting. You can use it after you're planting, and I'm going to show you how to work it into your soil. A bag this size will cover about 16 square feet, so we can do a foot wide, about 16 feet long, or we can do an area 4x4 with it. So if you've got a really big garden, it might take some time to work it all through your whole garden, but if you have raised beds that just aren't holding the moisture, just not allowing the water to go in, and just don't seem to be performing the way they ought to, this has a complete nutrition in there as well too. So this is something you can recharge and rejuvenate your raised beds or your garden with if the soil just seems to be tired and worn out and not working. So we're going to be planting some beans right here. So I like to take the GardenMax and just sprinkle it about 3/4 of an inch deep over the area where I'm going to be planting. So I'm going to take this, and as you can see, it's a beautiful dark black color. And it's just a rich soil amendment, and they've put some nice organic slow release fertilizer in there. Like I said, there's lots of beneficial microbes and microorganisms and mycorrhiza that they've added. So basically they've taken a lot of the products that we recommend that you use, and they've blended it all into one particular product that has kind of a little bit of everything in it. So it's got humate, and it's got soil conditioner, and it's got the mycorrhiza, it's got all the good stuff in it. They've put it into one product. Now I've got about 3/4 of an inch down there, and I like to kind of work it into the soil. So I'll take my rake and just kind of start working it into the soil where I'm going to plant, and it ends up just working into the soil nicely. What they recommend is after you plant, you can apply it either before or after you plant, but after you get things planted, you want to water it, and you want to water it a couple times, a little bit more frequently than you normally would, to get it activated and to get it working and to allow it to release what it needs to down into your soil. So usually I'll just do a good heavy watering out in the garden with a soaker hose after I get it worked into the soil. So that's how I'd work it into the soil, like that. We're going to plant some beans in this area, so after I get that worked in, I'll grab my furrower, and I would just furrow right down through the middle of it so I can plant whatever it's going to be, whether it's beans or peas or corn, or if I'm going to do squashes or melons or cucumbers. You can just like work that right into the soil and then plant right into it. But for existing plants, you can use it this way as well too. So we've got some tomatoes we planted about 2 months ago, and they're just doing amazing. So you can see they're growing out of the top of my cages already, but I'm having a hard time getting the soil to retain the moisture, and so I'm going to use the GardenMax as a mulch in around the tomatoes, not only to help put some nutrient out there for the tomatoes, because they're really just starting to produce. We've got a lot of good fruit set on the tomatoes, but what it's going to do is it's going to help the soil retain the moisture a lot better than it is right now. I'm having to water it a little bit too frequently, a little bit more frequently than I'd like to, but I'll put about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of the GardenMax in around the tomatoes to help retain that moisture so I don't have to water as much. And then as it works its way down into the soil, it's going to condition this hard, kind of crummy piece of soil. This is one of the least conditioned soil that I've got. It's probably the worst soil, in fact. It's just kind of hard and crusty, and a lot of stuff doesn't want to grow here. But we've been working it over, adding the GardenMax to the soil here. It's going to condition that soil. I won't have to water as much. You're going to watch the tomatoes grow like crazy and produce like crazy this fall. And it's all because the GardenMax helps that soil retain the moisture, conditions that soil, so frees up the nutrient, makes it available to the plants, and it's going to save us some time and some work, and we're going to see some great production off the tomatoes. tomatoes. So definitely recommend you use the GardenMax to really help condition that soil, recharge your soil, build your soil back up if it's old and tired and just needs a kick in the behind to really get your plants growing and producing like we want.